So over the past year, I've been kind of negotiating the inevitable, losing a studio space. I guess you could say it's kind of a worst fear, because what do you do when you don't have the space to do what you want to do and what you love? You know, making sure that you can continue to do what you've carved out in the world is your job. And it's happened to myself, and I was able to actually work through it to the point where I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the change. In fact, I resent going back to my old studio building to get my stuff out, because mentally I've just moved on. I've been able to, I think in a really healthy way, process it so it's no longer a threat to me, but instead I can kind of do it on my own terms, on my own footing. I recently saw a post that the Minor Street recording studio that is host to Weather Vane Music, that lease is in jeopardy. They may not be able to stay there at that studio. And it just, again, reignited these fears that I have experienced myself about losing the space. It's like the worst thing that could happen, right? I mean, someone wants to call the cops on loud drums or whatever, we can handle that issue. You know, there's so many different things you could handle the issues of and resolve, but what do you do if your landlord just says, yep, I'm just not going to rent it anymore? You know, I was reminded on why the issue is so potent and so, like, troublesome. But I'll say this. The brand of who you are and what you do, that's you, you know? When I kind of temporarily set up a studio with the COVID lockdown, I found that the way that I was setting up decorations in basically a porch, it was like a sunroom porch, and it was no bigger than 8 feet across. It was not an ideal mixing space. But the way that I set it up, the way that I decorated, and I was able to get like good shots. And looking back, I mean, if you go back to like the Audioscape 76A videos, those were shot on a sunroom porch that it was 8 feet across. It was not an ideal space at all. But in some ways, it was really charming, you know? I was right there at the house. It just felt really homey and comfortable to be there. I never felt lonely because I was like right on the other side of the wall from my family. And I saw that it could work, but I also saw that there wasn't really a loss of identity with the loss of a building. And so I guess you could say that was a dress rehearsal to what I'm going through now, where my rent's doubled, and I've acquired a studio mate to kind of help with the increase in rent, and that's worked out. But then they were saying double on top of that, so it's like, you gotta be kidding me. It's like 3 or 4 times what it would have been a few years ago. So it's definitely unsettling to lose a building and to be basically pushed out of the building. But I'll tell you this, the work that you've done is not lost, okay? It is probably the most darkest, dooming types of anxiety that I experienced when I knew I was pretty much going to lose my building. And, you know, when I realized that it wasn't about the building, it was about me, it was about my rapport with clients, it was about my rapport with you guys, it was about kind of a look in the videos. I could achieve that look anywhere. And the fact is you know, the feel of the videos really didn't change at all. So that was really cool to see. And if anything, I'm now looking at the situation with open arms and actually looking forward to having to set up a room from scratch. You know, you guys get to ride along for that. That'll be really cool. Having to set up a live room from scratch. What do you do? How do I make adjustments? What are the kind of things that I listen for? So these are all really cool questions that I think would make great videos. I'd never get those videos if I wasn't forced out of the kind of repetition of using the same room, the same building all the time. So if anything, it's a wild card that I desperately need, because as a creative person, it really helps. And it is daunting to think, oh my gosh, like I literally could just have all my stuff in a storage unit and not be able to do my job. But at the same time, what's keeping you from renting a cabin in the woods? You know, you could have an amazing week-long project in the woods where you set up your gear and you're able to adapt, you're able to get great sounds, and the artists are inspired. Okay, like here, I've been hanging out. This is actually my parents' vacation home here in the western North Carolina mountains, and it's a peaceful place that I've been able to use, and it's really helped me through a lot of kind of burnout feeling, where I'm just barely holding on, and I just don't feel inspired, and I don't know what's wrong. And so it's been really helpful for me, and I could just imagine. Like, yes, it's kind of a forced move to do something like this, to do remote recording, or even just to change buildings. But imagine the possibilities, like you might not have ever thought before to use. I mean, if you're always using the same room and you're just doing the same pattern over and over again, there's nothing new. There's no outside sensory to kind of mix things up, and eventually you just start making the same stuff over and over. And so the thing is like you gotta go, if you're a musician, it's hearing different music. If it's an engineer, then you have to record in a different room, go to a different studio maybe. And I've done this before where, I rented a vacation cabin, and it was actually a really cool project. So I'm kind of faced with that situation where I don't have a room, and it's going to be pretty interesting. But for now, I have kind of a modest setup that's been very generous, and I'm going to be setting up in a garage. I got a green screen. Heck, I could even make it look like I was at my old studio if I want to. But I have a real basic setup here with some panels going up, a cloud. This could totally work. 20 feet wide, 9.5 feet ceilings. Heck, this is actually a bigger room than my old control room. So it's gonna be a really cool transition. And if you're in a place where you're ever threatened by, not having a studio, I just want to encourage you that it feels very dark and overwhelming at first. But if you can convince yourself to be on the offensive instead of the defensive, when you're on the offensive, you're able to activate a different part of your mind where you're facing that fear voluntarily, basically. You're not being forced into it. You're not like a victim, basically, but you're choosing to go into that situation. And when you do that, then you start, you can keep your head on straight. You can actually start to think creatively and be like, wait a second, like I could totally go here. There's all these ideas that you all of a sudden start to think of that you never would before. So it is crazy. It's very anxiety provoking. It's been the kind of thing that just makes me curl up into a ball and just have no idea what to do. But I wanted to encourage you, it's probably a good thing in the long term. It's a little uncomfortable now, but that's good. You can't build muscle without putting your muscles under stress first. And then after that stress, the muscles actually build up stronger than before. Okay? Stronger than before, not weaker. It's not like a rock wall that slowly gets chipped away and then eventually gets old and tired and it falls down. I know sometimes I can feel that way. I feel old and tired and it's just like, how how much longer can I put up with this stuff? But if I think more about a muscle where it's like, wow, I've actually grown, I've come a long way in the past year to be able to handle this issue. And I just hope that, I don't know, maybe it just offers some encouragement to you guys. If you're going through something like that, maybe you lose your job or whatever, it's a kind of a forced transition, find a way to go on the offensive and think, okay, what are the cool, amazing things I can do here? Keep your head on straight, okay? And start to really just be present in that situation and see all that it is and be like, oh wow, like this opens me up. Now I don't have to pay a rent, but I can afford to rent a vacation home for my really important recording project. The band would love this, and maybe they do love it. And it's like this amazing thing. I mean, you hear some of these amazing projects, U2, Daniel Lanway, going into this castle for recording, it works, but you gotta be kind of forced into that creative problem solving to actually find that answer. Okay, I don't know what else to say, but I just hope that you find this encouraging. It's kind of an update of where I'm at. I'm still doing a lot of, kind of coaching, correspondence, some last minute videos over at the old studio, but I'm setting up a mixed room here. So I will be updating you as things progress. And this is all just temporary, actually. So we're building a building on our property, and until that's done, this will buy me some time for a couple of months. Okay, I hope this is encouraging to you. Let me know thoughts. Talk to you soon.